Hey, what's up, guys? It's Batman JPD, and you know what time it is today. It is the Batman JPD Entertainment News Update.
8 years ago, I started my first YouTube channel as a creative outlet that would allow me to express different areas of my life, which were often overshadowed by my athletic aspirations. I wouldn't say I was good or talented when I started, but in what I lacked was skill and experience I eventually gained over time through a relentless journey to become better and to find my purpose. I knew God gave me this passion for a reason, but I had to find out why. From animation to comics. My name is Jeremiah Derby, and this is my journey. I mean, as a child growing up, my dad, he was poor as a kid, and growing up, he grew up in Boston, and he moved to Carolina, to a small place called Currituck, when he was about 10 years old maybe, and he was a poor kid, and moving from the city to a much more rural place where you got to drive 10-20 minutes to get to wherever you're going. It was tough for him, and I think he got bullied a lot. He got bullied a lot not only because he was poor, but he was also into comics. He was also into superheroes, and he was really into that stuff. And back then, that was really frowned upon. And it's rough, back then it was really rough, but and that's ultimately what led to him wanting to learn martial arts and wanting to learn boxing and stuff like that.
My name's David Do or Die Derby, and we're here on the Outer Banks. I honestly feel I'm the baddest 135-pound man on the planet. I'm the most vicious, most brutal. I got the one-hitter quitter and the tooth chipper. You'll see it on the tape.
It's crazy because back then it was really frowned upon, but now it's just like it's really accepted. We have Comic-Con, and people don't look sideways if somebody's dressed up, cosplaying as Superman or Batman, just walking down the street. People think it's cool now, and they want to stop and get a photo. So it's pretty interesting. But back then, it was really frowned upon, especially during high school, and I'm just talking from stories that he's told me. I don't know from experience because I grew up in an era where people love that. People love comics, they love superheroes, especially because of the movies that have come out, and it's huge. But back then, he was bullied a lot as a kid. And but he loved it, and that was his escape. That was the only way that they could escape. Now people have social media and stuff like that, and I think people try to escape and through that. Whereas back then he was escaping through comics, where he could look up to these larger than life superheroes, and pretend that he was like them. And I think that's. He got into martial arts later on, pretty soon, so that he could defend himself. But I also think part of him that came from reading comics, from looking at these awesome superheroes, and these huge built guys that that were beating all these villains. And I'm sure he felt like he wanted to be like that. He wanted to be able to never have to feel like he's looking over his shoulder all the time, wondering if somebody's gonna pickpocket him or take his lunch money. So Yeah, it's definitely really interesting how the times have changed. But coming from that background, he really made sure to share that with me growing up as a child. So I remember as a child always being surrounded by these superheroes, by Batman, by Superman, Star Wars. He was always surrounding us with these animations. Always watching the Batman animated series. I remember we loved Star Wars as well. And my older brother was actually into Batman before I came along, and I think that kind of, really put that influence on me, and I really got stuck into it. And I can't necessarily remember the first time I read a comic book. I can't remember what issue, but I do remember the first time I read a graphic novel. And surprisingly, it was later, maybe when I was like 8 or 9 years old, which is crazy. I mean, I had read comics before, but I wasn't really into it. I was more into the animations, the toys. I really liked the toys. I'd make my own, stories up in my head and imagination. And, I would pretend they're fighting, Batman be fighting Joker, like any kid would do back then. But I really wasn't into the comics really early on, which is interesting to me. And it wasn't till later, till I was, maybe in 4th, 5th grade, that I really got sucked into the comics through graphic novels. And I do remember the first graphic novel I ever read, and that was Batman Hush. And I mean, everybody knows that Batman Hush is, just a legendary graphic novel. They just made an animated movie of it. And, for me to get in on that, that was, probably the best way I could have got into the comic book world and into the graphic novels. But like I said, I was always surrounded by it. I was always playing with my Batman action figures, and I was collecting it back then. But I really didn't get into comics and graphic novels until I was in 4th or 5th grade. And then once I got into it, I was just sucked in. There was no turning back. But yeah, I just collected them by the hordes whenever I could. For Christmas, I was always just asking for comic books, for graphic novels, and I just got sucked into it. And I mean, of course, that was definitely my influence into animation and stop motion animation. My 4th, 5th grade year, I wasn't really drawn to much, I remember. because I started getting into animation, and specifically stop motion animation or brick filming. And brick filming essentially is just stop motion animation, except you're using Legos as a medium. And I really got hooked on the Legos ever since I was young, and I was just always collecting the Batman sets. And I really got introduced to Lego stop motion animations around maybe when I was in 5th grade. I was probably about maybe 10, 11 years old, and that was when I first saw a stop motion animation with Lego, and that was Forest Fire 101. I remember because those videos were very explicit. They were very adult, but they were Batman and Robin, so I thought they were so cool. And I didn't understand half the jokes that they were throwing, but they were throwing cuss words and this and that. My mom would be like, "What are you watching?" And I still remember it to this day, but we loved it so much, so we'd sneak into the back room and turn on the computer and watch Forest Fire Lego films with my brothers and sisters, and man, we just got such a kick out of it.
In the deep dark layer of the Batman.
So then this guy, this idiot, shoots his gun directly into my balls.
Oh man, sounds painful.
And I was just so inspired, and I loved it so much that I wanted to create my own. And I remember exactly the time when I made my first one, and it was 2012. I made my first brick film, and it was the worst thing you will ever see in your life.
In the lair of the Batcave. Yes, Alfred is coming. What's the matter, Alfred? Well, it seems that, spit it out! The Halo has escaped from Arkham. Okay, now go!
I was completely mocking and completely trying to redo Forest Fire 101, and I wasn't the only one back then. There was a lot of people copying him back then, but it's not good, but it's definitely fun to go back and watch.
How to kill you, but we make it look suicide. There we go. Well, Mr. Bruce. Huh? What? I found this little guy out in today, Junior.
But even though it wasn't good, I was completely sucked in. I enjoyed the process. I loved it, and man, I got hooked. And when I get hooked on something, man, I become obsessed. You can ask people that know me. I just become obsessed. I become driven, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna do this until I get it right. I think over the course of 3, maybe 4 or 5 years, I probably produced around 30 to 40 animations, and I was just really sucked into it. And each one, I was just trying new things, I was getting better, and I was challenging myself. I think that's how you get better, and that's how you grow. So it was definitely really awesome just to see myself improve with each film. While you're in it, while you're doing it, you don't really see it. I think that's with really anything in life that you really try to pursue and get better at. but while you're doing it, while you're in there, you're grinding, you're working, you're shedding blood, sweat, and tears on it, you can't really see it because you can't see yourself, but other people see it. And then when it gets 4 or 5 years later, and you're like, man, yeah, I got better, and it's just pretty amazing to look back. I definitely remember, just getting hooked on that feeling of seeing my film finished. I put all this work into it, and once I just saw it finished, that was the high that I got, sucked into. But I also love the process. I love the process. I love grind. I love waking up at 5, 6 in the morning, staying late until midnight just to work on whatever it is, whatever the next project I'm working on. And I think that's how you get better. I think that's how everyone, once they get obsessed, that's how you pursue, and that's how you get better, and you love it.
And don't forget to order my Yoda soap by calling it over on your screen. Merry Christmas, everybody. May the force be with you.
I think it was around the year of my freshman year. I think it was somewhere in there, 2014. I started to, I was working on these projects, and I was like, man, I want to do something really ambitious. I want to do, something like a feature film, like, an hour-long stop-motion animated film, because I hadn't seen too many at that time. The one that I did see, and the one that I just loved and I got so inspired from, and this is, why I made The Killing Joke pretty much. But I remember seeing Kuber Studios' Battle of the Brick. And man, I watched that thing I don't know how many times. I mean, it's like a 30-minute animation, and man, I just watched that thing over and over, and every now and then I'll still watch it to this day. It's just so good, and it was so smooth, and I was just so inspired by it, and I was like, man, I want to do something like this. I want to do a project that takes me 2, 3, 4 years, but it's going to be worth it. So that was when I first started working on The Killing Joke.
I'm stinging. Itching. My face. My hands. Something in the water. Oh gosh, it burns. Get the stupid hood off. Get it off so I can see.
And I was also, I wanted to work on this project, and I needed something, because I didn't really want to write my own story, so I wanted to base it on a graphic novel or something that I really liked, and I had recently read The Killing Joke, and that's an epic book. If you haven't read it, then you're not a Batman fan or a Joker fan, but that was the book. I was like, this is it, The Killing Joke. I'm gonna do this. I don't care how long it takes me, I'm gonna get it done. So that's what I set out to do, and I think it took me 2 years. It took me about 2 years, maybe a year and a half, and I just remember it was about 6 months of me just doing the script. It might have been close to a year of me doing the script. I wrote the script. I literally just took the Killing Joke book and I literally just copied it panel for panel. So I'd be looking at the book and I type what the panel looked like. So, I type it and then I type the dialogue, literally word for word, because I didn't want to think about my own story. I just wanted to, I got the story, it's already finished, I want to adapt it into a brick film, and so, I'm just going to type it up how it is. And then, I, did a voice casting. I had like over 130 auditions. It was a lot of characters, but I was blown away by how many auditions, and I got some really, really phenomenal voice actors for back then. The Joker that I got for that story really sold it. I needed a really good Joker voice actor for that project, but man, that guy sold that performance. I was blown away.
Huh? God damn it! It's empty!
And I think that really took the production level, up a notch.
But no life's full of cherries and biscuits. Always remember this. Sam! When the world is full of care and every headline screams despair, when all is rape, starvation, war, and life is fire, then there's a certain thing I'll do which I shall pass along to you, that's always guaranteed to make me smile. I go loony as a light bulb battered back, simply loony. Sometimes hope that you're around. Mr. Life is swell in a padded cell. It'll chase those blues away. You can trade your gloom for a rubber room and injections twice a day. Just go loony like an acid casualty. You're a moody, you're a creature on TV. When the human race wears an anxious face, when the bomb hangs overhead, when your kid turns blue, it won't worry you. You can smile and nod instead. When you're loony, then you just don't give a thing. That's so beauty and the universe so big. If you're hurt inside, get certified, and if life should treat you bad, even get mad.
But yeah, I mean that project was just, that pushed me to a whole nother level as an animator. And I mean, some of the animation in that project wasn't phenomenal, it wasn't great. There's some really, really rough parts in there, but the reason I think it has 30,000 views on YouTube, and the reason that I think people were saying that they thought it was better than the animated movie, which I don't think it is, but whatever. I appreciate it. It's definitely an awesome compliment. But the reason that it's my most viewed video ever, and people really enjoyed it so much, was just seeing the passion and the drive, and just seeing that, seeing me see this through. I think a lot of time creators, they get so wrapped up with what they're working on, and then they get a little burned out. and they don't finish their projects. I think that's very, your audience wants to see that you're gonna finish your project, and that's one thing I knew from the get-go, and something I learned, and something I never really had a problem with. And I think that's why people enjoyed that so much. So, I think there's definitely a lesson to be learned, and I hope if any other artists watching this, any other animators watching this, know that finishing projects should be your number one goal. But like I said, after I finished that project, that was just, it really catapulted me into a whole nother level of production, a whole nother level of animation. And I really learned so much through that film, and you can even see it through, I just went from leaps and bounds. I went from, I think, an okay animator to a pretty good animator, in my opinion. And I think I had a lot to improve still, and I'd still love to go back and do some animation, see how much I've learned. But I think I did, from after that film, I did 15 to 20 more animations, and you could just see the production quality was so much better, and I did have better equipment, but like I said, it doesn't matter what equipment you have. What matters is that you have the skills, you have the experience, and you have the passion and drive to see your projects through. And I think that's ultimately why, my journey, I look back and I see myself growing. I see myself growing in the past, 12 years. I've grown a lot. And I think it's because of that mindset. And a lot of that just stems from, my wrestling, my athletic background. You have to work. You have to work your butt off to get good in anything in life. And that's what I live by. And I think that's, translated into my artwork.
You're not with the Menklin brothers. You're not with anyone I know. Who are you?
You will know my name one day, and on that day you will beg for mercy.
You're threatening me? Get in line.
You will scream my name. Scream it!
So after producing The Killing Joke, and after, producing a bunch more animations for the next 4 or 5 years, and just seeing myself grow as an artist and as an animator. I was still drawing during all of this. I was always drawing, even though I was always animating. And if you look back at my old YouTube channel, you'll see that my channel was mainly focused on animation, but I was also trying to do the art thing. I was trying to do let's draws and things like that.
Hey, what's up guys, this is Jeremiah Derby here. I'm also known as Batman JPD on YouTube, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit fun, and we're going to be coloring in Photoshop. So what are we going to color? I did this for Inktober, this Doctor Strange and the Avengers. I did this for Inktober drawing last week.
And there was a place where I was really frustrated with my art, and I think that's why I kind of was more into the animation, and I got really frustrated with my artwork because I wasn't as good as I wanted to be. And you have to be careful, because that's a very dangerous place when you're frustrated, and you just want to make sure that it doesn't become discouraging, and that you don't, you want to compare yourself to other artists, but you don't want to discourage yourself by comparing yourself to others. You want it to encourage you and to motivate you. And I was in a really, kind of uneven place with my artwork. It was kind of rocky, and but then after a couple of years of, just pushing through it, I started to see an incline. I started to see my artwork improve over time, and I think there are always going to be times in your art career, and I think really in any career, you're gonna see moments when you're going up, and you're gonna see moments when you're flatlining and you're not really going up, maybe a little bit, but you got to push through it, because if you don't and you get discouraged, and that's when you start to go down, and you don't want to go down. Just stay, even if you think you're flatlining, if you think you're here, just keep pushing. Eventually you'll start to go back up, and it took, I think it took about 2-3 years for me to start seeing my art improve. And I also think that my animation was helping it improve, but once I really started to see it grow, I really started to get interested into comic books again. I was always interested in comic books, don't get me wrong. I was reading them, but I started getting interested in them as, I want to do them. I think I might want to make this a career. I didn't want to burn out, and I knew where my energy and my interest was going and my passion was going. So, I just flowed with it. And I'm not saying that I will never do an animation again, but I will say that as of right now, as far as stop motion animation, it's just not convenient for me. And I really have some awesome stuff I would love to do. But who knows? In the next 4 or 5 years, I might go back and do, a little short film or something. It's very likely that I will. But the energy right now for me is in comics. So after I, I spent probably around 6 months working on Rue issue number 1. I remember that project being extremely gratifying when I completed it. And, you know, I had the physical issue, the physical comic in my hand, which, you know, I independently got it printed, and I did a very small run, and, you know, I handed them all out to everyone I knew. You know, like, you know, hey, this is my comic, my first comic ever, you know, and just here, read it, you know. But you know, I was so motivated, I was so inspired, and I just remember holding that in my hand. I'm like, man, this is what I think I want to do for the rest of my life. But the thing is, you know, I realized that, you know, I said that about animation as well. So, you know, wherever I think I'm going to move to, but I really think that animation and comics are really where I'm grounded. But you know, I was like, man, you know, this is what I want to do. And, you know, I started working on other projects. And I was also, you know, coming to college. I had gotten accepted into UNC, and I was going to wrestle here. So I knew that it was going to be more convenient for me to, you know, work on my artwork than for me to animate. So that was really when I started to transition into, you know, my art career, my comic book career. And, you know, I have a lot of plans for a lot of comics. I did my first convention ever, and I did this mini comic. Back here is a poster of it. The Lost Colony issue #1, mini comic issue #1. And that was a really fun project. It's only 5 pages. I did it in a weekend, but it was really fun to have my first convention. And, you know, I'm planning on doing plenty more, you know, next year and this year as well. So, you know, I'm really excited for that. And I'm currently working on a project with my brother, and he's a really, really tremendous writer. And, you know, he's always been into comics. He's always been surrounded by comics, superheroes, just like I was. So yeah, we got some really awesome stuff that's going to be coming out pretty soon. I mean, it's like this, you know, it's time's short, you know. We don't have but so much time on this planet. You know, I do have a lot of time left, but I also don't. It's sort of a paradox. But I want to make sure I use that time wisely. So wherever I feel that my heart is going and my energy is going, and my creativity and my energy, you know, that's where I'm going to go towards. That's what I'm gonna do. So that's really how I determine what projects I'm gonna work on, and it's how I've always determined what projects I'll work on. And you know, I'm really excited for the future, and I think there's a lot that's gonna happen in the next few years. Even though I'm in college, yeah, I don't plan on stopping. I don't plan on stopping. I think when you realize what you're truly passionate about, and I'm really lucky, you know, I'm really grateful, and I thank God for it every day, that I know what I've wanted to do since I was 4, 5 years old, maybe even younger, but I just couldn't put words to it. But I knew that I wanted to be a fighter, and I knew that I wanted to be an artist or an animator. You know, I knew when I was younger, I remember wanting to be a comic book artist. I remember wanting to do something, work for DC. I wanted to draw Batman. That's why I always drew Batman. And I think once you know what you're passionate about and what you love, then, you know, it's easy. You know, sure, things get hard. Sure, you know, it's tough sometimes to get out of bed, but I make myself do it, you know, and go to the drawing board. I make myself get up out of bed, go to the drawing board. I make myself, you know, I sacrifice all these things because I'm looking at the long term, you know. You got to look at the long term. Too many people look at the short term. You know, they want happiness for the short term. I'm looking for joy for the long term. You know, I'm looking for something that's going to fulfill me for the rest of my life, not for, you know, a year, a month, you know. And, you know, art and fighting and, you know, above all that, God and my faith is what gives me fulfillment in my family. So, you know, I think self-awareness, but also spiritual awareness is key to having a long, successful career. And, you know, I'm still learning. But I'm going to get better. And I'm excited. And I'm grateful. And I'm really grateful for the people that have supported me and the people that will continue to support me and that are going to come along and join the Honey Badger Nation. And you know, throughout my fight career and through my art career as well. My goal is to merge both my fighting and my art. You know, I want people that know me as an MMA fighter, as a wrestler, as a boxer, to know me as an artist as well, and vice versa. So, you know, that's my goal, and that's what I strive for every single day. Again, looking for the long term. So many people looking for this. I'm looking for this, you know. And yeah.